I remember we pulled up to the driveway and it was just like all my family members' cars was there, my coach's cars were there. So I'm thinking we finna have like a surprise party. I'm thinking we finna party it up, right? And I remember I walked through the front door and it was just like death was in the room, man. Everybody was just teary-eyed and cotton-mouthed and couldn't nobody say nothing. And, you know, as I walked through the door and I was like walking towards the back of the house, it was like everybody just kept patting me on the back. So I'm thinking in my mind, like I lost a family member or something, you know? And then my mom was at the back of the house and she just looked like she was crying for days. Like I should have known something was up because my parents had moved to Kansas at that time. So they had to drive down to Dallas to get back, you know? And she told me that my test results came back from the NBA and I tested positive for having Marfan syndrome. And I was now drafted and eligible. And that kind of just began, you know, my story, you know, and it was something that was hurtful, and it was something that, you know, I'm still traumatized by it to this day because I put in a lot of work, man. Like a lot of people don't know that I'm completely blind in my right eye, and I've been completely blind since my sophomore year of high school. I went my whole life being able to see with two eyes, and then my vision gave out after my fourth surgery. And I've been blind ever since. I had to really reteach myself how to play the game again, how to position myself on the court, how to pour water into a glass because I have no depth perception, you know, and I'm still making threes. I'm still shooting turnarounds over my right shoulder, not being able to see the basket. And it's just like God gave me this incredible talent and this skill set, and I'm not able to showcase it, you know. And you know, so I overcame a lot up until that point, and I really thought that, you know, I had been through all the trials and tribulations that life was going to throw at me, but that's, you know, that was the young me, and, you know, the old me knows that there's probably still going to be worse things ahead of me that I need to prepare for.
Hey, welcome to Life After Sports. Shoot, it's a pleasure, man. In Northern California, homie, you know, Isaiah, Austin, man, I really want to say I appreciate you for coming on the show. And like I said, I didn't even know you were from the Central Valley. You know what I mean? I know, you know, the Central Valley's big in sports, man. And if no one's ever been to Fresno, the college campuses, I mean, the high school campuses, east, west, I mean, Clovis, everywhere. I mean, you guys got athletes down there. So I want to say I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's enlightening to be here. So
thanks, man. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. And I believe Life After Sports is a platform for anyone to tell their story. You know, it's not for me to tell, but you know, it's just for a safe place for people to, you know, to possibly help somebody else or inspire someone else also at the same time.
All right, for sure. I'll give you, kind of like the sweet and condensed. You know, yeah, I was born in Fresno, California. My mom actually ended up moving us to Texas when I was around, I think, 11 or 12. And I've been here ever since. So I'm stationed here in Dallas, but I grew up playing basketball. You know, my dad, Alex Austin, my uncle, Isaac Austin, just a family rooted in the game. And I always had this fascination of the game, and it was just something that I was just naturally gifted and talented at. So I just started pursuing it. I actually didn't start thinking that I was as good as I thought I was until I actually came to Texas. And when I came to Texas, it was like a reality check. It was like, okay, like you can actually compete at the highest level at this, and everybody, you know, wants you on their team for a reason. So you got to start taking it serious because when I was in Fresno, you know, I played AAU a little bit, but after we left Fresno, we moved to Minnesota for a year. When I was in Minnesota, I was killing everything, you know, and that's nothing against the Midwest, you know, but the South and the Midwest is just different when it comes to basketball. You know, the competitive nature was a lot more intense when I got here to Texas, so I had to actually take the game a lot more serious. And 8th grade is when things started to really like erupt for me.
Oh, okay, all right. Hey, I said, it's my boy Shaun King. You know, I mean, quarterback. I mean, you know, guru. I mean, he got that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, man. What's up, Isaiah? How you doing?
Doing all right. How you?
I can't complain about anything. I thought I was on time, but I guess I'm late.
Well, we'll be happy. He's great. He's blessing us with, he has something to do.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate you joining us, man. Wonderful story, too. I'm a big fan, huge fan.
That's what I said. So, I mean, were you always the tallest kid, growing up, or how did it work?
Yeah, always. So it's crazy because my mom is only 5'3", man. So everybody used to look at me crazy, like, no way, that's your mom, But my whole family is tall. My dad is tall. My uncle's tall. My grandpa's 7'1" as well. So I've always been the tallest. In my classroom, just in every grade, I've always been the tallest.
Okay.
Now, how much pressure did you get? Because Greg's a little older than I am, but when we were in high school, like if you were 6'6", you were back to the basket center. But like you're still in that kind of evolution of the game where guys your height are more wing players, shoot the three, don't really play down low. How hard was it for you to kind of stay with that traditional skill set?
To be honest, man, like I never really played back to the basketball. My dad and my mom always taught me, the first thing about basketball is to shoot the ball. So I've always been able to shoot the ball from the 3-point line, and beyond. And that was one of the first skills I ever worked on. And then my favorite player growing up was Allen Iverson. And, I started at like age 5, 6, just bouncing the ball, locking myself in the bathroom. And my mom used to have to, jam her door down to get me to stop. So I felt a lot of pressure, though, like growing up, because I was always the tallest and everybody was like, you're going to play center, you're going to play center. But I was always rebellious as well. Like I refused to play for coaches who just wanted to look at me as a center. Like I wouldn't allow myself to do that because I grew up knowing the game as being just a ball player, not a position player. So, the coaches who tried to put me, just strictly on the block, it ain't last long with them because I knew that this was my life and it was something that I enjoyed doing. And I didn't enjoy playing with my back to the basket. I can and I will, when it comes to it. But as far as like, just want me to just be a beat down bruiser, rebounder, shot blocker. Like I'm much more. I always thought of myself as much more than that.
One thing I always want to know, I'm from Florida. And so when I grew up, we thought we invented the game of football. And every Florida kid wanted to go, if you kind of was a hood kid, you kind of wanted to go to Miami. If you really was a skill guy, you wanted to go to Florida. And, then you had your Florida State fans. I've never understood from the basketball side, because you're from Texas, for Arlington, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, correct.
How does the hierarchy work growing up in Texas when it comes to basketball? Is it UT? Then, how does that work?
When I was growing up, man, it was UT. Like UT was the mecca in Texas for basketball. They had Rick Barnes at the time. They had players like L.A. come through there, KD, TJ Forbes. They had cats like that going through UT, and everybody wanted to go there. My first choice throughout high school was Texas because I always wanted to be a Longhorn. And then I met Scott Drew, and he was just like, I'm trying to build something, from the ground up, which he did. And, it took him 20 years to win a national championship, but he has a legacy there, and a lot of people kind of really don't understand that, like, certain coaches only let you play certain ways. I'm not saying Rick Barnes, wouldn't have let me play how I wanted to play because he let KD on a leash, but unleashed. But when I was growing up and playing, like, Scott Drew was like, he was loving it. Like, he didn't care what any of the scouting services said about me. He didn't care that, I wasn't playing on the block. Like, he wanted me to just be all around the court, as long as I played defense. So that's why I kind of went the Baylor route, because I entrusted him with my career, and I knew that he would just let me play freely.
Oh, that's what's up. So, evidently, I know you're still a fan. College basketball, tell me who, we live in Vegas, man. Tell us who go put my money on. Who should I go bet on, man?
I ain't gonna lie, man. I like NC State to take down Purdue, and then I got UConn winning it all, man. I mean, they've just been a powerhouse all year long. You can just see it throughout all their games. You know, they have coaching, they have bench play, they defend, they shoot the ball well. I mean, there's not really anything that they don't have on that court right now. So. I'm gonna go with UConn to win it all in the Final Four. I'm actually gonna go out there in Phoenix to go watch.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be out there myself, so maybe I'll see you out there. But yeah, man, I mean, what do you think about this women's game, man? I think the women, man, I was glued to the TV all night last night watching them play. You know what I mean?
I love women's basketball, but me, myself, I'm a basketball junkie, man. Like, I watch high school basketball, middle school basketball. It don't matter. Like, if the ball is bouncing, I'm probably in the stands somewhere watching. So a lot of people have been jumping on the bandwagon for women's basketball lately because the last couple of years have been intense. But it's always been like that. If you watch the game, like, they always get out there and bump. And it's not as exciting. They don't dunk on people, but they get out there and bump. That's for sure.
Yeah, they do, man. Like I said, they play hard, man. And you know what? And I got away from a little bit of the men's college for a while because, you guys always played hard. You know what I mean? At Baylor, But I think the hardest game I ever seen, like when we were growing up, the Big East. I mean, they banged. It was like the NBA, right? When we were growing up. But when I watched that A&M play Houston the other day, man,
that was fun.
That was a dog fight.
That was fun.
You know what I mean? That was a dog fight.
Dog fight, man.
And
a bunch of kids who just hungry and want to be great,
Yeah, get their shot, huh?
I do have a question for you regarding men's college basketball, and I have this theory. Women's college basketball, to me, is as popular, if not more popular, because the girls are in school long enough to create a brand and develop a fan base. And on the men's side, it's so difficult to actually fall in love with a player because the really good players are going to be one and done, or there's so much movement now. How does men's basketball kind of get fixed at the college level? I mean, the tournament's the tournament, but I do feel like the regular season has kind of lost a little bit of the, oh my God, such and such is playing such and such this Saturday. We got to be there to see it.
Right. I don't know, man. I think NIL is going to help that. I know that there's a lot of great college players who are going to end up staying 4 years in college because of NIL, because of they're making a lot of money and they know that they're not going to make it to the NBA. It's probably best for them to capitalize in the college scene. So hopefully it's going to change. That's going to change a little bit, But as far as like the one and done guys, there's only a handful of them. If you actually look around college basketball, there might be 10 to 15 guys who actually go one and done. So it's tough, man. But I know what you mean, though, because like Paige Beckers, she just said that she's going to come back for her fifth year at UConn, and like she just has this great following, and if you actually watch college basketball, Haley Van Lith from LSU, like she was that girl at LSU and she ended up switching lanes and going to LSU, at Louisville, and then she ended up going to LSU, and she kind of her draft stock kind of plummeted a little bit, because she didn't fit that system. So I don't know, man. It's a lot to say about that. Like, there's so many different ways you can look at it and talk about it, but I personally like college ball more than pros, until playoff time. Pro.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that's me too.
One more question before we get to your story, because you got one of the, it's a really cool deal. I remember watching you on draft day and everything that they did, and I want you to tell that story. One more thing, but I want to get it on video. The NBA, as we know it, those guys are getting old. Dwayne Wade, Carmelo are already retired. LeBron looks like he's just waiting on Bronny. KD, like all those guys, great players, first ballot Hall of Famers, but they're on the back end, if we're honest, their careers. Name your top 3 under 25 players in the NBA right now.
Under 25. Man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah.
And you got to go Wemby.
Oh.
And I like Chet. Dog. It's so many in the league. Ja. I mean, geez Louise, man. The league is in great hands right now. I'm not even going to lie to you. There's just so many different players that you can go with, it's all over the place, man.
Yeah, so I mean, we want your story. This is about you. But, I mean, what is it like to play in the Big Three? You know what I mean? What is it like? You know what I mean?
And it's dope. I never actually got the chance to play in the NBA, so to be able to get out there and bump against, guys that I grew up watching, like Joe Johnson. Like, I used to watch his highlights before my games. You know what I'm saying? ISO Joe. For a while, I used to try to call myself ISO Z. We ended up beating him in the championship last year, and it was kind of like a surreal moment. Like, damn, I never got to play in the league, but guys around the country and around the world, they know that I get bumpy for sure. So
shout out to Ice Cube. Damn, I hope Caton takes that $5 million and gives us at least a game or two in the Big Three. That'll be dope.
I don't think she's gonna take that. Man.
No, she ain't gonna take it.
She got enough money already. She don't need that.
Yeah, she's on the women empowerment movement. You know what I mean? To inspire these other little girls. So, I mean, drafting. What was it like, or leading up to the draft? I mean, I don't know the emotions, but what I mean, that's your dream as a little head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start back in college. So my story really starts like my freshman year of college. I get to Waco, number one player in the country, Baylor's highest recruit ever. I ended up having an amazing season. I had the most double-doubles in Power 5 conferences. As a freshman, I got Defensive Player of the Year, first team All Big 12. I lost Big 12 freshman of the year to Marcus Smart, but he just played his fucking mind out that year. I'm working out in a private workout in front of a whole bunch of league personnel, and at this time, everybody's already saying I'm going to be top 10. I might go as low as like 12, 13 on some boards, but I'm for sure a lottery pick. I was playing some of the best basketball of my life, and I go and I rip through a pad, and my right shoulder tears. I tore my rotator cuff and my labrum all the way through. I couldn't even lift my arm. So I had to make a decision. I was stuck. I wanted to still enter the draft, but at the same time, like, for me, it was lottery or nothing. And I knew that if after all those teams seeing me get hurt, like my draft was gonna plummet a little bit. So I decided I wanted to come back to Waco. Ended up coming back to Waco. I got my surgery. Had an okay year. It wasn't the greatest, but I was still projected top 15. I felt like I could have played a lot better, but I just had so much time in the off season that I was taking to heal my shoulder that I really wasn't able to actually work on my body how I wanted to and actually get in the gym and put up reps how I wanted to. So I came back maybe like 10 or 12 days before our first game, and then I played the whole season. So I wasn't in the right form that I thought I was, but I knew that I was still going to be good enough to be able to, get drafted. So I ended up putting my name into the draft. I only worked out for all the teams, and at the combine, this is the NBA combines before you actually go to the team workouts. I go to the combine and they hook you up to like this machine. It's an EKG machine. You just running on the treadmill. And I remember it's almost like a competition. They wanted to see who can run the longest and the fastest and you were competing. And I remember I was one of the last people off of the treadmill. And, at my mind, I wasn't thinking anything of it, but it ended up that my heart had skipped a beat or I had an irregular heartbeat. So they ended up calling me back at the end of the combine and asked me to do some extensive testing. The doctors they asked me, have I ever heard of something called Marfan syndrome? And at that time, I didn't know what Marfan syndrome was. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. You guys want me to test for it? I'll test for it. I ain't tripping. Like, what's the odds of me actually having Marfan syndrome? After 8th grade, I lost my vision. I had 4 emergency surgeries. I thought God had put me through all the trials and tribulations that I was going to go through up until that point, And I ended up drawing my blood. They took my blood, but then they let me continue with my draft process. So I'm killing dudes. I'm talking about absolutely killing dudes. My stock is flying up. They talking about top 5, 5 through 8. After they told me that I was going to go like 15 through 25. Now they're saying 5 through 8 because everybody's seeing that, I was, in my mind, I was the best player in that draft, hands down. I could do everything. Then 5 days before the draft, on June 21st, I remember it was like a regular day. I woke up at like 7 a.m. and I went, had breakfast, and I was on the court, ready to go by like 8 a.m. And I was with my high school mentor. He was actually my high school coach at the time, too. His name was Greg Vaughn. And we used to work out at Mo Williams Academy here in Dallas. Mo Williams is a close family friend of ours. So he used to let us get to the gym whenever. So that's why I did like my pre-draft, and that's why I got all my work in. I remember I had one of the best workouts of my life, man. I was stoked. I was geeked up. Boston had just called and told me that I had a great workout with them, and that they were considering me with their pick. So I shut all my workouts down. I wasn't going to work out no more because a lot of guys work out even on draft day. So I shut my workouts down. We hop in the car. We go to Mo's house, and I could just feel like Ray's persona just started to change. Like he's my guy, man. Like, we kick the shit. We talk shit to each other. We kick it, we doing everything together. And today he just quiet. I'm like, man, what's up with you, dog? Like, draft 5 days away. I'm playing the best basketball of my life. Like, we here. We finally made it, right? And he was real quiet. And then it started getting around 6 p.m. and he was like, all right, come on, I'm gonna take you to the crib. I should have known something was up that day though, because he don't never pick me up for workouts. Like he the type of dude, like if you ain't in the gym when I tell you, then shit, I guess you ain't working out that day. Like you a minute late, 30 seconds late, I guess you ain't working out that day. But he wanted to pick me up that day. And then we ended up going back to my aunt's house at the time. And I remember we pulled up to the driveway and it was just like all my family members' cars was there, my coach's cars were there. So I'm thinking we finna have like a surprise party. I'm thinking we finna party it up, right? And I remember I walked through the front door and it was just like death was in the room, man. Everybody was just teary-eyed and cotton-mouthed and couldn't nobody say nothing. And, as I walked through the door and I was like walking towards the back of the house, it was like everybody just kept patting me on the back. So I'm thinking in my mind, like I lost a family member or something, And then my mom was at the back of the house and she just looked like she was crying for days. Like I should have known something was up because my parents had moved to Kansas at that time. So they had to drive down to Dallas to get back, And she told me that my test results came back from the NBA and I tested positive for having Marfan syndrome. And I was now drafted and eligible. And that kind of just began, my story, and it was something that was hurtful, and it was something that, I'm still traumatized by to this day because I put in a lot of work, man. Like a lot of people don't know that I'm completely blind in my right eye, and I've been completely blind since my sophomore year of high school. I went my whole life being able to see with 2 eyes, and then my vision gave out after my 4th surgery. And I've been blind ever since. I had to really reteach myself how to play the game again, how to position myself on the court, how to pour water into a glass because I have no depth perception, and I'm still making threes. I'm still shooting turnarounds over my right shoulder, not being able to see the basket. And it's just like God gave me this incredible talent and this skill set, and I'm not able to showcase it, And so I overcame a lot up until that point, and I really thought that, I had been through all the trials and tribulations that life was going to throw at me, but that's, that was the young me, and, the old me knows that there's probably still going to be worse things ahead of me that I need to prepare for. So I ended up going through that 5 days before the draft, and then NBA still wanted me to come out and get drafted, and they honored me as an honorary pick, and it was a life-changing moment.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's heavy. That is heavy, man, because like I said, we always complain about a lot of stuff, but we don't know what somebody else is really going through.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that puts it in perspective, though. I mean, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears your whole life for this one day, and it's just gone.
Well, Isaiah, the podcast is called Life After Sports. And, I always, when I'm mentoring or talking to people, I always tell them the one thing about being a pro athlete or having that pursuit is you don't get to really retire. Like, very few pro athletes retire. Most of us, like, the key card don't work anymore. And we go work out for 2 more teams and they don't give us a new key card. And, like, you just don't control it. So talk me through, I know there was a adjustment period after, you got that information and news. How have you transitioned to what you're doing now? And how has that been fulfilling for you to kind of take up some of that void that not being a pro athlete anymore at the highest level can only give you?
Yeah. So after all that happened, man, I took 2.5 years off away from the game. But God had blessed me enough because, I feel like he wanted me to do his humble work, and he wanted me to share my testimony and give to others and, be selfless and learn, kind of like this humble situation the hard way, because I wasn't the man that I am today back then. And I'm not afraid to admit that to people. I probably could have been a way better teammate. I could have been a way better brother, a son, a friend to a lot of people back then. And I just thought that I had everything already basically handed to me, and I took 2.5 years and I just dedicated myself to giving to others. And I was going and sharing my testimony with people and trying to get people to pull themselves out of the mud by hearing my story. And I did that for 2.5 years. I was the spokesman for the Marfan Foundation. I did countless speaking engagements. I was still enrolled at Baylor, so my same teammates that, they were subbing for me the year before, I was on my hands and knees wiping up their sweat and giving them water every day at practice. So I went through this humbling experience, and then 2.5 years later, God blessed me to come back to the game, and I had a 5-year pro career overseas. I was able to play in 13 different countries. I played at the highest level in CBA, which is the highest paid league behind the NBA. Mm-hmm. So I got to experience, pro ball. But while doing so, I kind of figured that I had a bigger purpose in life, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play basketball forever. So I was pursuing something else. And my wife always put it into my ear that I needed to take the NBA up on the job offer that they offered me. So I went back to school and during COVID, and I graduated, and I ended up playing 1 more year pro, and I reached out to the NBA and let them know that it was going to be my last year pro, and that I wanted to take a job within the league somewhere, and they gave me an internship. So it was really like a fellowship role within the league, the league's front office, so I can experience all the departments, everywhere from marketing to b-ball ops to social responsibilities, all of those things. I end up landing with NBA player development, which is a group that is just dedicated to helping players kind of find their purpose and find their passion outside of sport. And I've been doing that since October 4th of 2021.
Wow, man. Hey, you are a true testament, man. I want to say, I didn't know how to follow that. I've had some rotator cuff surgeries, shoulder replacement, man, but, I got, I look back and said, I wonder what it would have been like not to be hurt, and, what my career would have been like. And I wouldn't trade anything, but for a person to not even get to, your dream is just taken from you after you put everything into it, man. I just want to say, man, this is what this show is all about, about building dreams and breaking chains, and, hey, man, you have a lot to be proud of, you know what I mean? And just keep doing what you're doing, man, and hopefully I'll see you in Phoenix.
Yeah, no, for sure, man, for sure. But, I appreciate you guys having me on here, man. I got a lot going on right now. I'm actually about to step down from my job at the NBA. That I'm about to take this assistant coach's job at Florida Atlantic University.
I was going to say, you got coach written all over you. That's what I thought when you reached out to the NBA. Because I will say, as a league, they do the best job of former athletes becoming assistants and then head coaches of any of the leagues. They do a really good job at that. I see a coach when I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I've always said that I never wanted to be a coach. You know, if you ask any of my parents, my wife, you know, my dad, anybody that knows me, I always used to say, like, I never wanted to be a coach. But my wife has always, you know, put it in my ear and told me, like, you would be a great coach. You don't even understand how good of a coach you would be. And it was crazy because we was just sitting in the garage Easter. We had threw a little barbecue and everything for the kids in the neighborhood and got some bounce houses and, you know, a whole bunch of food. And I had got a call from John Jagus, who was my assistant while I was at Baylor. And he's just like a coach who has just impacted my life in the most positive way, you know, far beyond the game of basketball. You know, I'm talking about like real life shit, you know, like standing by my side and making sure that, you know, I have somebody to talk to, a shoulder to lean on, you know, expressing to me that, you know, as a man, it's okay to cry. Like he instilled those type of things into me. And, you know, he called me and he was like, I'm just sitting here with my feet on the beach, and you know, I just thought of you, and I was like, "What you doing on the beach?" I'm thinking he's still in Waco. I'm off social media, man. I've been off social media for like a year, so I'm not really in touch with everything like I used to be. And he was like, "You didn't hear?" And I was like, "Nah." He was like, "I just got the head coach job at Florida Atlantic." And I was just ecstatic for him, you know. And then he just started crying. He was like, I want you to be my head assistant." And I was like, man, like, it's crazy because for the past 3 years, I've been leading our NBA's coaching development program. So I know all of, you know, the ins and outs of what it takes to be a coach. And I've always said, like, I don't want to be a coach. You know? It's something about when, like, somebody meaningful to you, like, asks you to do something, you know. And then I also had my wife pushing me, you know, she's been pushing this for years on me. And it's just something that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go ahead and go for it. It's kind of like a sign from God, you know. You gotta listen, and you gotta pay attention closely because He's gonna give you hints, and He always gonna lead you in the right direction. And I feel like this is the direction that He's leading me in right now.
Well, Isaiah, I coached 4 years at University of South Florida, and I've experienced a lot of things in my life. There's nothing greater. We have 8 kids from those 4 teams that are playing National Football League. And taking a talent that needs discipline and accountability to really reach their potential, and you being the mentor for that young man, and then him finally realizing his lifelong dreams of being able to play professional ball and take care of his family, there's nothing like that emotion that you feel, how proud you are that, first of all, you sacrifices. Coaching can be hard, but that it worked out in the favor of the young man. And you're going to love it down there, too. That's the most beautiful campus in Florida. FAU is unbelievably gorgeous.
Man, yeah, I heard, man. So we already looking at spots in Boca. And, you know, I'm going to be in Florida in a couple months.
Yeah, hey, congratulations to you, man. I'm a Sacramento Kings fan, man, with your boy Mitchell. I wish he was rim protecting for us right now, dog, because Sabonis, he needs some help, man, down there on the block. You know what I mean? Yeah. I appreciate you, though, man. Much love to you and your family, and thank you again. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you, fellas. Thank you.
Okay, man. God bless. See you.
Thank you. Thank you.
When we get down there to the gym, you better let us in, too. Don't we act like you don't know us.
Hit me when y'all get to Phoenix, man. I'm actually I get out there Thursday morning. I'll be out there through Sunday, and then Monday I'm gonna actually go down to FAU and sign my contract. So
Okay.
I'll be down there, man. We can definitely link up. I got some USA basketball programming that I got to do for their U16 and U17s teams that are going to be out there.
Okay.
I got you, man, for sure, man.
Travel safe, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks again.
Appreciate y'all.